then the truth is that immigration does bring some challenges to the country. The question is whether or not those challenges outweigh the issues that come with not having immigration in a country.
I listened to this debate featuring Lonerbox on immigration, and I thought this was an interesting statement, because Lonerbox, being an honest actor, will acknowledge that there are some harms and threats involved in immigration, but ostensibly the benefits outweigh the costs. So you have Lonerbox saying this, and on the right, people like me, and on the more extreme end, Tommy Robinson, saying that mostly Muslims are the problem. But why can't we have both? Why can't we have immigration, just not from majority Muslim countries? We can seize the benefits of immigration while minimizing the risks and the harms that come from it. I had a chat with Lonerbox, and that was one of my key arguments.
I seen, again, this from The Guardian, but it's like 0% of British Muslims think homosexuality is moral. I think that's kind of a problem. And then a good proportion think it should be illegal. So I still think even the ones that are coming here still have these kind of more extreme views compared to the West.
Why are they coming here if they're annoyed by homosexuality? Why the fuck do you move to London, of all places in the world, if you have an issue with being around homosexuality in public? It seems to be like they accept it.
Even though 0% of British Muslims said that homosexual acts were morally acceptable, he retorted that maybe their opinions would soften over time, even though we'd have to believe that these 500 British Muslims just happened to all just land in the country and their views hadn't changed yet. But again, my question is, why take that risk? Plenty of people want to live in the West, especially with our generous welfare systems in Europe. So why don't we select from countries that have views more similar to our own, so that, I don't know, maybe our gay population doesn't get beheaded? Just a thought. Why don't we not select countries like Afghanistan, where 99% think Sharia should be the law of the land? And of that 99%, 85% of them think you should be stoned to death for adultery. And of that vast majority, a vast majority of Afghani Muslims think that should apply to non-Muslims as well as Muslims. And while I certainly hope that as soon as they cross the border, all their backwards views will instantly dissipate, and a few gay people and women will be murdered and raped in the meantime, I don't see why we have to take that risk in the first place. And that's not even getting into honor killings, in which only 24% of Afghani Muslims say it's never justified. Ugh. So unsurprisingly, extrapolating from that, honor killings are popping up around Europe. In cases like this, Shafili Ahmed was murdered by her father because she was becoming westernized and refused to obey them. It's okay, guys, they'll cross the border and become westernized. Except in those cases where they are willing to kill their own children for becoming westernized. But, oh god. Or the Swedish case where a father murders his daughter because she was dating a Swedish man. And it's skyrocketing in the UK alone, with 12 to 15 a year. An increase of 81% from 2016 to 2021. More recent figures state that honour-based abuse in England has increased 60% in 2 years. So it's kind of hard to believe they're integrating and leaving their backwards opinions in their own countries. And I ask again, if you're adamant that we need immigration, why do we have to take it from these countries that have views that are antithetical to our own? And in Ireland's case, the head of An Garda Síochána's Special Detective Unit says that the threat of Islamic radicalization is growing in Ireland. They cite the case where a 17-year-old stabbed an army chaplain. He did it to protest the Irish army, and he had a poster saying Allah Akbar, as well as an Islamic State flag and depictions of beheadings. Or there was the recent Garda stabbing in which the attacker shouted Allahu Akbar before the attack. So again, why do we have to take in immigrants from Islamic countries that hate us? This isn't even to mention the repercussions on free speech. I don't want to delve too much into it because I'll probably save it for a separate video. But we've all seen the stories of beheadings or other executions for criticizing Islam. A group of Muslims in France even shut down a screening for Barbie movie because it promoted homosexuality. Not only are they homophobic, but they want to enforce their culture on us. Free speech be damned. So while threats to free speech, your safety, and your culture as a whole are bad enough, politicians are finally acknowledging the economic problems involved with mass immigration.
Veronica, you made a comment about how if infrastructure isn't delivered, it's going to damage social cohesion. Can you just explain or be specific in what you meant by that? Are you talking about people who use anti-immigration politics and bolster it by saying that the country is full or the country isn't working?
No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Though it is not an unfair point to point out at a time when you have a growing population, more people coming to our country, and a shortage of housing, that there is a correlation in terms of the scale of challenge that can pose.
So you're saying increasing demand in the form of tens of thousands of immigrants has negative effects on the country during a housing crisis? I never would have guessed. So with housing being the single biggest issue for voters, what do our dear politicians do? Well, of course, they're going to increase demand and therefore prices for housing. And oops, we're probably going to have to put a further strain on your money because we need $1 billion every year to help pay to accommodate asylum seekers. So even though the majority of the population say they don't want more immigrants, we're gonna do it anyway, and your cost of living will go up, you won't be able to buy a house, your free speech will be curtailed, and your culture will be destroyed. And there'll be the odd terrorist attack and a beheading now and again, just for good measure. Excuse me, when do all the benefits start? The alleged benefits? I also thought this conversation between Piers Morgan and Tucker Carlson was quite enlightening.
Look, I think...
so it's better. So what about British culture didn't you like and has been improved by new cultures?
well,
Tell me, what didn't you like before? What are you glad is gone from the Britain you grew up in?
Let me tell you, if you came to London in the 50s and 60s, the food was crap. Absolute crap.
Well, it was that way in the 80s when I was here.
Right. Now, we have some of the best gastronomy.
It's amazing.
Increases in Islamic terrorism, beheadings, it was all worth it for a fucking chicken tikka masala. I saved the greatest piece of evidence for the end, a fact so abhorrent that if the Irish public was made aware of it, immigration would be ended tomorrow. The vast majority of Muslims think drinking alcohol is immoral. We can tolerate the homophobia, we can tolerate the increased cost of living, but you can't be shit crack.